I had to get my shirt right.
What's up, everybody? Episode 5, AOS Podcast. We're back at it. It seems like we were just here, but I love when we can hop on every 2 weeks. Again, if you're a first-time listener, we'd like to welcome you to our show. We are 3 Black male leaders, fathers, that are going to have a good conversation today. If you're a returning listener, thank you for rocking with us again. We want everybody to go to our Facebook page, like it, YouTube page, subscribe to it, Twitter page, follow us. And what we want you to do, 2 things as we kick off this show. First, I want you to share this video and also tag some folks. So if you're listening to this, tag some people who you think will enjoy this conversation. It's going to be a good conversation. As you know, it is the 19th anniversary of September 11th. And in addition to being educators, Black men and fathers, my 2 co-hosts are also veterans. And so they're going to do a lot of the talking about today as we talk about September 11th and how it meets the realest education. So I'll kick it off. I'm Dave McGuire, representing Naptown. Got the good internet today, so we should be good today.
That's good to hear.
Dr. Smith, man, reintroduce the folks to who you are before we get things started.
I'm Dr. Smith, Vashawn Smith, proud principal, Grandview Middle School in Grandview, Missouri. We out here making major moves. We might talk about some of this smoke that came down this week as we kicked off the school year. I really thought that at one point I was gonna have a ride outside my building with parents and somebody was gonna throw a Molotov cocktail through one of these windows because it got heated. But you know what I'm saying? I feel like this week, and maybe we get to it in the second half of the show. Like I think I took steps to become an educational legend this week. I'm telling you.
There you go.
I think I became a legend this week.
And legend in the making.
For real.
Your turn, brother. Reintroduce the folks to who you are.
What's going on, friends and family? Demetrius Ball here. I am the proud principal of Iron Horse Mill, San Ramon, California. And if you didn't know, California is literally. Yeah, I mean, it's been a wild week, and literally Wednesday, like. The clouds were covering the sky. The sky was orange, dark orange. I don't know if y'all been on social media checking that out, but I mean, it was wild. And, just another thing to add on to this crazy 2020 year. But, overall doing well, and just, blessed to be here with y'all this evening.
Hey, real quick, we don't know what direction the show about to go. So if Unc is in the back producing for us, hey Unc, can you put on the ticker drvashonsmith.com? I just want to make sure everybody know about the blog that debuted last Friday. It's been doing crazy numbers. Man, Saturday I woke up and based on my phone, I used the Wick is where I got my website from and my blog. And it gives you a notification every time somebody gonna read your blog. I woke up Saturday morning. It debuted Friday. I woke up Saturday morning with notifications from Ireland, South Korea, the Philippines. I mean, like it done went international. So I'm super geeked about that. So if I could throw the, drvashonsmith.com on the ticker when he get a chance, I appreciate that. So I just may go ahead and do that shameless plug.
Ain't nothing shameless about it. It's out in the open. That's what we call pressure. So here's how we're gonna kick off the show, everybody. I think everybody knows. So again, I hope you've already shared this video and liked it and tagged some people. But now what I want you to do, if you're listening, briefly, because we don't want a whole paragraph, just tell us where you were, if you want to name your age, how old you were, September 11th, 2001. So where you were and how old you were, if you want to, or what grade you were in. And each of us, we're going to go around. I'm going to start first because I'm going to let the 2 of them go into more detail because they have some other experience and I have some questions for them. About where I was and kind of what was happening. So I was in 8th grade and we had just got to school, man. And we got the homeroom and it was on the TV, right? And the first plane had already hit the tower. And so our teacher had it on him. We're glued in, but I'm an 8th grader. We hadn't learned about the World Trade Center. I knew where New York was, thank goodness. Shout out to the social studies teachers that taught me that. But I didn't really know what the World Trade Center was. But as we're watching, we see the second plane and then the buildings fall, right? The towers fall. At that moment, I remember 5 minutes later, our principal comes on and tells all the teachers to turn the TVs off, not to watch it. And we kind of just sit in this awkward space. Our teacher's crying. Find out later that, she had family in New York, had family who were firefighter and police officer, so she was concerned about that. And then around 11 o'clock, they sent us home, like for the day. But what I really remember is, man, I'll go home and watch TV, and Nickelodeon was showing it, BET, MTV, ESPN, like every channel has stopped. It's like the world literally has stood still that day. And that's what the main focus was. And, you know, it wasn't until I got to college and older where I truly understood like the impact, not just of the terrorist attack, but what the attacks previously, right? The 93 attack on the World Trade Center and all those things that happened. And so it's just a crazy, crazy time. And as I was talking to my students today, you know, I told them, I said, you know, this is my moment in history that I remember. I said, if you have relatives that are 65 years or older, you ask them about where they were when Martin Luther King was killed or JFK, or you have some older relatives, you ask them about Pearl Harbor and things like that. Like that was my moment in history. And I told them, I asked them, I said, in my sixth grade, I said, what were you doing when you saw the first time you saw the George Floyd video, right? And they could tell me, and I said, see, 10, 15 years from now, that's probably going to be your moment in history that you remember. And so that was just kind of the conversation we had today, and we played it in morning meeting and things like that. So I start with you, Ball, because both of y'all are veterans, but where were you? You know, what was that time like? What do you remember from that day?
Yeah. So, you know, we talked about me being a veteran. I was senior at West Point on September 11th, 2001. And, you know, you talk about impact. You know, obviously it was life-changing for me because, you know, to that point, you know, I had been training and preparing to lead soldiers in the Army. And I didn't have any prior service experience. So all my military connection and experience was my 3.5 years at that point at West Point. And, you know, we're training and, you know, there's a lot of different things that we were kind of focused on. And, you know, we were still using Cold War tactics and preparing to fight the Russians and that type of thing. But, you know, I'll remember that Tuesday morning, it was a beautiful morning, and we're 50 miles north of New York City. And, you know, beautiful Tuesday morning. And I've been having trouble with my computer. I had the huge desktop tower computer. And we had Gold Coats was the folks you take your computer to on it. And, you know, it's a techie place. And so they got you know, 6 or 7 screens, you know, that they got stuff on. And, you know, I go in there with my computer after my first period class, I think it was. And, you know, I'm dropping off my computer, you know, I put my work ticket in and all that kind of stuff. And they got up on the screen, you know, the tower, and it's like the backside of the North Tower. And they're like, yeah, a plane just flew into the World Trade Center. And then from that angle that they were showing at the time, like you could see like a few of the windows kind of broken out and smoke coming out of the building, but you couldn't see like the devastation on the other side. And so it was just like, man, that's super weird. You know, that's weird that happened. But it was like, you know, and they didn't know what type of plane it was and all that at that point. And so I'm like, man, that's just wild. And so I dropped my computer off and I head back to my room before I go to my next class. And my wife, who's my girlfriend at the time, I go into her room in between classes, and she's got the news on, and we're looking, and they're like, that wasn't no little plane that ran into. And so, you know, folks, there starts to be a buzz, and then head to my next class. And by that time, the second tower hit and everybody is talking about it. And I'm in my philosophy class, and before the towers fell, my professor, he was a Army major at the time, was like, you know, I'm gonna send you guys back to your rooms and to reflect on how this has just changed your life and our way of life as a country. Because, you know, at that point, it's like, yeah, this wasn't an accident. This was coordinated. This was planned. And so, you know, I went back to my room, was with my wife and her roommate in their room, and then my roommate. We got back to my room, and it was just like, you know, it was just so surreal. and then to see the towers fall. And I mean, in the here, DC had been attacked, and just that uncertainty. I mean, we're on a military base for the most part, and everything gets locked down, and everyone, just like it's just like eerily silent on the post, just realizing that, wow, my roommate's like, we're about to go to war.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a veteran. He had served I think it was 2.5, 3 years on active duty before coming to West. And so he was tested. He was the one that pulled me through a lot of times at school. But I mean, man, and then well, I'll let Doc talk, but I was on the football team at the time, and just dealing with that as a football team, and then all the things that go along with that. Before I'll let Doc go and kind of tell his story of where he was, because I know he was on active duty at the time.
Yeah, whew, man, like I'm just sitting here visualizing it, and it really takes me back to what Dave talked about, where that moment in history. Like, I remember growing up and hearing my grandmother talking about where she was when Martin Luther King was killed, when Kennedy was assassinated, when the Challenger blew up. Like how do you remember that in such vivid detail? And like, if I was to close my eyes right now, like I can like almost smell the field house at Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, where I was stationed at. So kind of set up the context. I'm going into my last year of my 4 years, my 4 years of active duty. Already had planned on getting out, and really set up the context. My daughter had just been born a month and a half earlier. So, and that really once I had my daughter, that's when I was like, yeah, this military thing ain't gonna work for me. I worked for the 45th. Worked for the 45th Reconnaissance Squadron. We did a lot with ballistic missiles reconnaissance, Operation Cobra Ball. I'm just gonna kind of leave it at that. That's kind of just general knowledge you can get. But the kind of job I had, just kind of gauge job that I had, is when I got out the military in July of 2002. The passport that I had while I was in the military, they took it from me. So that's how bad. I mean, when I would go places, they would be like, I carried a pager 24/7. I kept a go bag ready to go, and I couldn't tell my family where I was going. Like, I used to get to the point where I used to tell my grandmother to them, "Hey, just watch CNN." Like, just watch CNN. Like, so I'm at the field house. I'm working swing shift at this time. So I mean, I didn't go in until usually I wouldn't go in until like 2 or 3 o'clock. So I would get up in the morning and go to the gym. And don't forget, I'm sitting on the treadmill at the field house. And the field house is an old aircraft hangar that they turned into a gym. And it's the little, the arc kind or whatever. And it has a track that goes around the outside, and all the exercise equipment is on the outside of the track. And on the inside, they have racquetball courts, basketball courts. So on the side where I was at, on the treadmill, up on the wall of the racquetball courts, they have a bank of TVs. And they're usually playing the news and stuff like that. And then the treadmill, like I said, I remember this so vividly. The treadmill, you plug your headphones into it and you press what channel TV you want to listen to while you're working out. And I usually get there. I'm usually watching ESPN. So I'm watching ESPN. I'm running on the treadmill. And I look over at CNN and I see the towers are smoking. So, of course, I flip over like, what the heck going on? Like, the towers is on fire. That's kind of weird. And they talk about, a plane, accidentally had ran into the towers. And literally 5 minutes into this, you see the second plane. I mean, I'm seeing the second plane, like, damn, that plane is flying close and smacks the other tower. And literally, like, I'm 45 seconds to a minute later, you hear on the loudspeaker, Colonel so-and-so report to work, Captain so-and-so report to work, Sergeant so-and-so report to work. Like, my pager is blowing up. Like, we like, what the hell is going on? So like I said, I'm stationed at Offutt Air Force Base. If you know anything about the Air Force, STRATCOM, so the Air Force of the United States Strategic Air Command is stationed there. Like, that's where the ballistic missiles and all that is, the command post is there. So it's going crazy. They put the base on lockdown at the bottom. So I end up getting a page. My boss tells me, you need to get here now. Like, I'm at the gym. And mind you, I live a good 30 minutes away, but like I said, I keep a go bag in my car at all times. So I said, well, I got to run home and change. They was like, no, you need to get here like now. Like, not now, but right fucking now is his words. So I get to my unit. They're like, they start handing out orders. Like, we going here, whatever. So we end up flying. Before we end up flying out. So then they put the base on lockdown. Like, no more, planes weren't coming in. Cars couldn't leave the base. Cars couldn't come on the base. It was complete, like, at a standstill. If you was at the BX, you had to stay in the BX. If you was at the gas station, you had to nobody could move across the base. So we like, what the hell is the station shutting the base down like this for? Next thing we know, Air Force One is flying into the base. So they brought Bush to our base when all this went down. Because he was in Florida at the school. They put him on the plane, flew him to our base and off at Air Force Base in Nebraska. And then at the, I don't give a lot of details, but basically there's a way to get from the flight line to StratCom without leaving the flight line. So I'm just gonna give you that piece right there. Took him there, you know, and like I said, some of the stuff is just general knowledge. StratCom is pretty much a 7-story building. But if you're looking at it, you only see 2 stories. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. So they put that on. He was there for a few hours or whatever, and he takes off. Then we get orders like, hey, we got to go. So we end up flying out on the 12th. That morning, we had to wait for a C5 to come in to pick us up because we kept our kits, all the plane parts, our kits for deployed in Japan. So we would fly from here to Japan, pick up what we needed, and then we would go somewhere, in the Middle East, a lot of times somewhere off the coast of the Middle East where we would fly out of or whatever. And we was there. I mean, we were there from September the 12th. I can't remember, like close to Halloween. I mean, it was like Halloween when I got back. And when I got back, that's when I knew. I said, "Yeah, I can't do this. I got a daughter. Like if this is what the world we about to go into." And then so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead because by this time they're like, "Hey, are you gonna re-up? Here's what your bonus is if you're gonna re-up with this job." I mean, they were offering at this time the job that I had. They were offering a $20,000 4-year re-up. Which means the day I sign, I get $10,000, and on the anniversary every year after that, I would get $2,500 bonus check. And I'm like, no, my daughter's worth more than that $20,000. So I ended up deciding to get out. So my out date was June 15th, 2002. They put us on a freeze. Ain't nobody getting out. Ain't nobody getting out. So I never forget because I remember 4th of July weekend, I had already planned to go home. I was out the military. I was about to go home and turn up. Like in April, I stopped cutting my hair. I'm getting braid. The military was a traumatic experience for me, dude. Like from the point, like I left off at Air Force Base July 7th, 2002. I didn't go back on another military base until a year ago when one of my frat brothers was getting promoted to lieutenant to major. When I put on that base, mind you, it's been 19 years since I've been out. When I put on that base to the visitors post, and they, you got to go to the visitors post, check in. So they give them your ID, and they was like, "Oh, Vashawn Smith." Okay, they pulled up my picture from when I was in the military. Like, "Oh yeah, you good? Give me my paper." I mean, because I'm a disabled vet, so I am a disabled vet. Mind you, I'm a disabled vet, and I still don't go on military bases. When we put onto that base, I literally had an anxiety attack. Like I called one of my homies who, my homegirl, we've been friends since high school. She went into the Air Force. Matter of fact, she just retired a year and a half ago. She went in 2 weeks before me. I called her while I'm driving on this base to go to this promotion ceremony and said, "Look, I'm having an anxiety attack. I feel like they're not gonna let me off this base once I get on here." She was like, "Boy, if you don't stop playing." But I literally was like, because I mean, the military was a traumatic experience for me, and it was my only way out the hood. So I took it, and I've been blessed ever since. But like I just remember like that traumatic experience, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like I'm good. So yeah, I mean, I every September 11th, like I said, I literally can smell the smell of the field house, see those bank of TVs, remember pressing the button to get to the channel for CNN, like literally like it happened this morning.
Yeah.
So for both of you, like, and Ball, just that was the start of your military career.
Yeah.
Doc, that was the end of yours, basically, right? So you have these two different viewpoints. And so, Ball, I'll start with you. And I had the 3 questions that I told you about before. Before I get to those, I want to stay just in this space. So what I remember, right, at the time I was 12 years old, right? So when you think about my generation, my group of friends, that was their launching pad, some of them, for when we graduated high school, why they went into service, right? September 11th, that moment was why folks became more patriotic, right? Why they decided to fight for your country. But for you two, you were already in that space, right? And doing service. So Ball, when I start with you with this question. So September 11th happened, right? And everything that follows it, right? We go to war and things like that. When you think about what you saw that day in your service, right? Do you think anything would have been different in your service had that moment not happened? Does that make sense? Right. So
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I decided to go to West Point, during a time of peace. And I know that
Yeah.
it was a possibility to go to war. I think, Kosovo had been a thing prior to me going in, but it was always like, oh, we'll go ahead, I'll do my 4 years at school, do my 5 years on active duty, pop smoke, and do what I want to do, move on with the rest of my life. And I knew that, again, I knew that deploying somewhere or to multiple places would be a possibility. But I mean, on September 11th, it was like, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. You're going somewhere. And then, October, we President sends does attacks in Afghanistan. Obviously, Rashawn's doing his thing in the Air Force, but like, when troops are we're doing airstrikes and we're about to send folks on the ground, it's like, oh man, Afghanistan. Let me brush up on what I know about Afghanistan, start doing my research and start understanding, because this is where it's going to end up. But I graduated in June 1st of 2002. President Bush happens to be our commencement speaker. My class was the bicentennial class of West Point, and so we got all these different perks of being, we were called the Golden Children, and so you talk to class of 2001 and 2003. They're super jealous of us because we just happen to be born at the right time. But just like President Bush comes on and he does his speech, and if you're in any history, the Bush Doctrine, he says we're not going to wait for folks to come attack us anymore. We're going out, and we're all looking at each other, at the ceremony, like, oh yeah, it's real, it's on. And then I go on active duty after I do my training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, as field artillery officer, and we're training, we're preparing, and we start to hear this chatter about Iraq. We're gonna go after Saddam Hussein and take him out, and honestly, that's where I get to my first duty station after training, Fort Hood, Texas, and there was two major divisions on the base at Fort Hood, Division and 1st Cavalry Division. And when I got there, the end of 2002, 2003 in March is when we invade, and like that whole time, 4th ID, they're on the other side of the post, they're ramping up and they're going, and it was real, it was on. Friends that I knew invaded Iraq, and I deployed to Iraq in January of 2004. And so I was in combat for just over a year. And that experience, even though it wasn't directly connected to September 11th, but that shaped who I became as a man, and as a 23-year-old, 24-year-old, leading a group of men off patrols down to Baghdad, and then doing all sorts of things in that capacity. I mean, just talk about a real, life-changing experience. And so that was the launching point for who I became and who I have become as a leader. And a lot of the lessons that I learned, again, I talked about, I played football at West Point, Army football player, and it was cool to have that experience. And we beat Navy as a senior. I mean, that's how you go out. That's how you go out. And that experience helped mold me. And just like that time in the military, as we transitioned into education, I always knew I wanted to be a school leader. And when I got out of the Army in 2007, all I had to do was my student teaching to finish my master's and my credential. And so, I went into teaching 6 months after being out. So, that experience has really propelled me into the leader that I am.
Got you. All right, Doc, man, similar question, but when you think about that, you were on your way out. Do you see, and you talked about the importance of your daughter, so your daughter being born and now the time that we're in, right? Had that moment not happened, do you see yourself staying longer? Especially when you talk about that bonus, right? Like, do you see yourself, okay, I could probably do another 4 years with this because we are in a time of peace, or would it have been like you still would have got out?
Nah, so before I get to that, I want to shout out T-Way. That's my little brother in the comments. What up, boy? So before September 11th had happened, once I knew I was having my daughter, and I think the thing that would have made a difference for me, I'm just gonna be honest, had my daughter been a son, I probably would have looked at things differently. But the fact once I found out that I was having a daughter, I knew I was getting out the military. But also going into the military, I never planned on making the military a career. Like when I came out of high school, I was really trying to go to college. I was trying to get a football scholarship. Life circumstances happened. I got into some issues and whatever like that, where I had to get up out the city. So, and the military was my escape to make that happen. So like I said, the military was a very traumatic experience for me, not just because of 9/11, but a lot of things that just transpired when you got somebody from the hood, raised by their grandmother, not a real lot of men role models, and now you're into this very, very structured, place. Like it was very difficult for me to adjust and deal with that, situation. However, I credit my success today to the foundation that the military gave me. Like the military taught me discipline. It taught me, and you talk, Ball knows this in the military. I mean, especially in the Air Force, attention to detail is our motto. Like, I mean, to the point when I was in basic training, like they talk about, the Air Force basic training being, Cub Scouts or, day camp or whatever. Because we not out there in the field. We ain't, we got one warrior week. That's all we doing out of the whole time. But we in the class from sun up to sundown. We in class. We're studying, about different things and stuff like that. I mean, to the point where like our inspection of our lockers, like your toothpaste has to be a certain way with the letters facing a certain way. Your socks have to be folded a certain way. Your bed has to be so tight that a quarter like there's a lot of stuff that I'm thinking like, this ain't a big, why the hell are you tripping about the way my socks are folded, to the point where your drawers had to be folded a certain way. And I'm just gonna be real with you. The diggers in my flight 475, we even buy drawers in basic training. Like I'm not about to get dinged on this. We going commando the whole time in basic training, just so we ain't got to get dinged on it or whatever. So, but once I had my daughter, like I was like, this military thing ain't gonna work for me. Like I got my escape. So now how do I use this to catapult me to my next thing? So, like I said, lucky enough, the good thing about the military is when you're on duty 24/7. You are always a soldier. So I tore my Achilles playing squadron football, and because of that, I am now a disabled vet. Wow. Now, mind you, I also got a deflated disc in my back as well from the military. But part of my disability is because I tore my Achilles playing squadron football in the military. So kind of my hand was forced, even though I wanted to stay in. I tore my Achilles. That was that spring right beforehand. So since I wasn't worldwide eligible, because I wasn't, I couldn't re-up anyway because I couldn't, I didn't have worldwide status. So it kind of just played a part for me to get out anyway. But I knew I found out about my daughter being a girl like February of 2001. At that point, I knew I was getting out. So that spring summer, I started taking classes. I enrolled at the University of Nebraska. Like I started to set myself up for the next phase of life because I knew I was about to make this move and do what I had to do. But like I said, as much as the traumatic experience I had to go through, and like the military was my wilderness journey, like I credit it to. Matter of fact, just yesterday, I was talking to my staff about, when things popped off at our school on Tuesday with technology and the first day of school, like I just came back in general, like I need you to do this, I need you to do this. And some people were trying to offer suggestions. And I had to come back the next day and say, hey, look, it's not that I didn't respect your suggestions. I said, in the military, I come from a military background. And in the military background, we have collaboration meetings, we have planning meetings. I said, but when we get in the foxhole, you just got to do what your commanding officer say. It ain't time to collaborate no more. When he say go that way, you just go that way. If no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I told him, I said, and if the plan I come up with, if it goes south, I take all the blame. But if we get success, I give you all the praise. And that's what you do. And the military taught me that lesson. That's the lesson the military taught me. I wouldn't have that without the military. So, but I knew, like I said, so hope that answers your question.
No, it does. And so now we're going to get in. So again, this is episode 5, 9/11, the Realest Ed Movement. Dave McGuire here. And listen, I'm here just filling the questions, and because I want Doc and I want Ball to share their experience, because they can give both the perspective as veterans, but also as educators. And so we're going to kind of dive into some things. So, with everything going on, we're going to fast forward. So we've talked about where we were September 11, 2001. Let's fast forward to August 2016. I think I got it right. So I want to know and paint the picture. This is when Colin Kaepernick in a preseason game sat on the bench during a national anthem. So I saw that, right? And at this time, I went to an HBCU. I studied, African-American literature and history. And so I'm in this moment now, right? Because I have seen Trayvon Martin, Ferguson that happened 2 years ago, right? You got, and then that was a summer of like we experience now, where we see that black people being killed at the hands of police officers, right? And so all of this is happening for me. So I see Kaepernick sitting down. I'm like, oh hell yeah, right? Like take a stand. But I want to ask you, because the major part of that is what got lost was people said that he was disrespecting the flag, and so it's the AOS podcast. So let's just be real and lay it out on the table. What were your initial thoughts? The first time you saw that, what was your thoughts and your feelings when you saw Kaepernick kneel/sit during the national anthems as veterans and as black men?
So my initial thoughts was the sitting. I don't think I actually got. I love football. I mean, college football is my first love. I do watch the NFL, so I don't really pay a lot of attention to the preseason games. Mm-hmm. So I really didn't catch wind of it until it kind of got into the season, and it started to kind of pick up steam or whatever. So then I went back and said, okay, let me kind of find out exactly what's going on, what the issue is, and then I found out, initially he was sitting, and then he did have a conversation with a veteran. And the veteran kind of explained to him kind of what that meant by sitting or whatever. And so then Kaepernick asked the veterans that he was talking to, would it be okay if I was to kneel instead? And they was cool with it. Mm-hmm. To the point where if you go talk to, I guarantee if you talk to 99% of veterans, they had no problem with him taking a knee. I mean, that's just from the veterans I know, from the stuff I've read and all that, they had no problem with him taking the knee because it stood for something, and that's what that meant for me. And so I saw no issue with it, because with the whole thing with Kaepernick, before I'm a veteran, I'm a black man. I'm a black man before anything. I'm a black man before I'm a principal, before I'm Dr. Smith, before I'm a veteran, before I'm Case. Like, I'm a black man at the heart of everything. So if you standing up for black men, I'm standing with you no matter what my title, my position is, because at the heart of everything, that I can't take that off. I can go find another career. You know what I'm saying? I can go do other things, but I can't take off being this black man. That's just who I am. So I had no issue at all with it. I mean, you see the shirt. Like, after that happened, like, I went and bought a shirt. I got a Kaepernick jersey. Like, I was pissed this past summer when they came out with the Air Force Ones with the date on them. And I was willing to pay $500 to get a pair. I couldn't find them nowhere.
Was you the one was you trying to get on that live link? That live link was hitting refresh. My iPad and my computer,
Hey man, I do that with James every time they come out, so I can't talk.
I wouldn't even go wear them. I just wanted for what they stood for.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I was in Florida. I was down in Florida and at a Supreme store, and they had them. And the dude was like, "Hey, we got them for $250." I'm like, "Dude, you ain't said nothing but a word." Mm-hmm. But the biggest size they had was a 9. Dude, I wear a 12. Just in case I do want to wear them, I want to be able to fit them.
Right.
but I want them just for what they stand for. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, like, I'm riding with Cap all day long. Like, and I know now in the NFL, they got egg on their face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Bob, man, what about you? Like, you know, again, you were at West Point at the time. So when you saw that, when you heard about it, what was that initial thought? That first thought, right?
Yeah.
Feeling.
I'm going to take it back just a little bit further. So again, I got into teaching high school, and I started coaching football, and that and I love sports. I go to a lot of sporting events. Just that experience is something that I enjoy, and going to sporting events, doing the national anthem, it has some meaning for me, especially knowing that I served, the friends and classmates and the soldiers that I know that passed away, that lost their lives. That's significant to me. But I understand that not everyone has that perspective. Mm-hmm. And going to a sporting event and seeing, like, maybe most of the crowd has, they taking their hats off and they're, cover their hearts to singing. But most of the folks, you go to an NFL game, half of them are drunk and, they're talking like, and like that. To me, that's disrespect to the flag, and to the service and sacrifice. I mean, that's part of it. And then I lived in Maryland for a while, so I was in Maryland before, from 2011 until 2015. If you're an Orioles fan or any Maryland sports fan, they carry out the O on "Oh, say does that Star Spangled Banner," and like that just annoyed the heck out of me. Just, I mean, and it was just a thing. Like, it just doesn't sit right with me. But long story short, I'd been hearing about Kaepernick and I was like, I didn't really get into it, hear it until I was at that same weekend. I went to the Oakland Raiders preseason game, and they had put Kaepernick up on the screen. It's him sitting during the national anthem, and the Raiders fans, they're off the chain anyway, and they're going crazy. And I'm talking to my friend I was with, and I was like, "What is going on with that?" Like, I see him sitting. I don't know what it's all about. But I went home after the game, and I heard his interview when they started talking about it, and I'm like, okay, like that's what I went and served for. Like, just like Doc said, I can't take off this skin. I know this experience, and I've had I haven't personally had a negative experience with the police, but I know it only takes a second. It takes one person seeing me walk down the street. It sees one person seeing me, like I lose my keys and I'm trying to get into my car, or just anything, just walking down the street.
Yeah.
It only takes 1 minute for something negative to happen for me. And that's something that's always in my mind. And so, initially I was like, what is he doing? But then I was like behind it. And, it's been a struggle for me because like I'm an NFL fan, like I love football, but I'm just like, seeing what they did to Cap and what they're continuing to do to him. And just like Doc said, they got egg on their face. They're on the wrong side of history because they know what he was doing was right. And they just allowed the story to be changed. Initially, oh, he's disrespecting the flag. It's not about the flag. Yeah, it's about how Black people are treated by the police. And and unfortunately, it's a fight that's been going on since the beginning of this country.
Well, people still don't get it. Let me give you a prime example why they still don't get it. So, I'm here in Kansas City. I'm not a fan, but this is the home of the Super Bowl champs. And they played last night against the Houston Texans to kick off the season. And before the game, so basically, the Chiefs was on the field during the national anthem. The Houston Texans stayed in the locker room. And there was a couple Chiefs that did take a knee, and I kind of before the game started, the Chiefs and the Texans came together on the field as a sign of unity. And they had, we must stop racism going across, or stop, hate going across the big train like that. And the fans in the stadium were booing. So Cap was 4 years ago. And on the Jumbotron, it reads, "We need to stop racism," and you booing. Yeah. So that tells you that while the NFL is trying to make strides, we got a long way to go with people, just society, period.
Yeah, and Paul, you said it, as Doc, you said, he said in the locker room when they asked him, he said it point blank, right? But when I think about the Nike ad that came out, right? And this is just me from the outside looking in, not being a veteran, not being in the military. So correct me if I'm wrong. When I think about that Nike slogan, right? Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. To me, that sounds like what the military is, right? I'm believing in something and I'm willing to sacrifice everything, i.e. my life, for this cause. And so I saw that Nike ad originally, saw it powerful, but I said that was his tip of a cap to military veterans saying it's in my own space, it's the exact same thing, right? So no, I didn't put on a uniform and fight for my country, but I'm willing to die on this hill, fall on this sword for this cause and for this. And to me, I think, Doc, you said it, when he talked to military veterans, that's why they said, this is your sacrifice. I understand now, right? And I'm going to stand with you, and rock with you. But again, you just had that section of people who is so uncomfortable. And so I'm just going to say, he's disrespecting the flag. So
let me ask you this question, because you brought that quote, you know what I'm saying? We want to talk about even to cost you everything. So we are school leaders, and we're in a very tumultuous time right now. And I got a specific story I want to hit on, but I'm going to ask y'all first, though. In this time as school leaders right now, and this with everything that's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement over the summer, and Dave already know kind of your hill and everything like that. But what is the hill that you're willing to die on right now?
Yeah. Black kids learning.
Yeah, I think for me, the willing to, I would give up my job if it meant my teachers carrying on conversations about Black Lives Matter and addressing, what's going on in our political climate and those types of things, because it's something that I'm, that's coming up. And you hear things, and it's virtual, and and parents are at home, and they're hearing what the kids are talking about, they're hearing what the teachers are saying. But I will go to bat for my teachers that are willing to step up and say, hey, we need to have these conversations about how Black and brown people are treated by the police, just in our society in general, just, systemic racism, white supremacy. Like, those are words that honestly, I was afraid to say early in my career, maybe even last year for that matter. But I've just grown in a really short time to understand that, like, there's so many people that have sacrificed for me to get to this position. And, I feel like I can stand in my power. I can stand in my knowledge. I can stand in my strength, and I can get another job somewhere if that's what it costs. I mean, the bottom line, like, it's a job, and I know my mission is to be the example that my kids need. And, my whole purpose is to serve the kids in my community. So wherever I end up, I'm going to serve in whatever capacity I can. And, principal is a title. But, am I making a difference? If I'm afraid to support my teachers having conversations, support my students that want to have conversations, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So Dave, the kind of way I would pose the question to you is, because you had the billboard in your school that you put up that has inspired something that's going to be hot coming up next week.
Yes, sir.
Stay tuned. And you could have folded under the pressure and took it down when you got the heat on social media. So what has it been like since we talked about that on the show and kind of brought some more light to it from a positive standpoint? Has it been a topic of discussion anymore? Or has it kind of just ran its course?
No, it still comes up. And it comes up from, like, I think more people, it's crazy, man. It went viral, like, outside of Indy before it went viral in Indy. Like, people now are just now reaching out and asking. But honestly, man,
Talk about what happened. What happened? What happened? What's the
we might get some new listeners, and I think it's important that they know what's going on.
So I put up a billboard in the summer, say the names of Black people being murdered by police officers, and I put it on social media, and I said, this is the pressure we're applying this year. And I got lit up, but I also got supported, right? But what came from that was people questioning, is that a place to do in a school? They start pulling up, like, our record as a school, which they need to check their facts because they had it wrong. But anyway, they start pulling up those things. They started questioning, like, our methods as leaders and what our motto. So our motto is college or die. And they just started coming at me, like, ridiculing me, said that we shouldn't put that in front of kids' faces. And I'm like, we should, though, right? And it ain't for the kids. It's for everybody else, right? Because I have this platform. My kids have this platform. Our school has this platform, and we're going to use it. And it should start a conversation because we should do these things, right? We did this. They're painting murals in the street. It's cool. We're going to put a billboard in the school, and it's going to stay up all year, and it's still up. But what people in India are saying is, well, what else? And I was like, so you obviously haven't been following the school if you asking what else, because this conversation, it's gone to shirts. It's gone to more tweets. It's gone to everything. It's gone to conversations we're having in the classroom. It's going to my kids questioning and asking their teachers certain questions. But I think people in Indy are just asking, like, quietly, like, are you willing to give it up? And I'm like, absolutely. You can have my principal card, my teacher card, my Indiana card. You can have all that shit, but I'm not giving up my Black card. So I'm gonna die for that. I'm metaphorically, I'm gonna die for that. And I walk away and I go study for the LSAT and try to be a lawyer, right? Or I'll take my MBA and go work for Eli Lilly, right? I could do something else, like you said, Ball. But that's the hill, because Black kids are going to learn, and these Black kids are going to feel safe and welcome. And the question came up, how do you as an admin work to make those conversations a truly a safe place? I make sure that I lead the conversation, and I'm willing to start and have the conversation, and I'm willing to listen to anybody, white, black, purple, green, about how you feel. And we're going to have an honest conversation. And I tell my staff, we're not going to ridicule or demean anybody that doesn't understand if they misspeak. But what we're going to do is we're going to educate and enlighten them. That's it. I'm not going to talk down on you if you don't understand. If you feel like Kaepernick disrespected the flag, well, let's have a conversation. Let me explain to you what he said, because it was very clear about what he said. And we're going to try to unpack, why you feel this way. If you feel like this billboard is inappropriate, then I'm going to tell you it's inappropriate for officers to shoot black people or step on their necks.
So before I get to my part, I dropped the link in the comments. If you want to see the billboard, that's the link right there. If you need to see the billboard that went viral. And it's crazy before I get to my part is because outside this podcast, we might tweet or text each other every now and then, but we don't really talk like that. But we like on the same wavelength. And it's like, shout out to Unc for like bringing this together off of one show because we all on the same wavelength. And I'm gonna kind of give you why I asked that question is because I use those exact same words this week. Like, this is the hill I'm gonna die on. So what happened was over this past summer, my BLT, my building leadership team, which is made up of 6 teachers and my instructional coach. So shout out to Ms. Phillips, Ms. Watson, Ms. Barton, Ms. T. Watson and Ms. E. Watson, Ms. Barton, Ms. Phillips, Ms. Johnson, Ms. Fajan, and Ms. Williams, my instructional coach. And we came together. Mind you, they ain't getting paid over the summer. But we met every Monday for 2 hours from starting about the beginning of July all the way through mid-August. And we did a book study on this book right here. So why are the black kids sitting together in the cafeteria? And we developed this PD, and I shot y'all the PowerPoint for it that we did with our entire staff. And before the day, so that Tuesday, that Monday, the Monday that we were going to do it, let me go back. The Monday that we came back to school, I told staff, we're going to address this social justice thing that's going on in America as a staff, because when you get in front of kids, they're going to have questions. And I need to equip you with the right verbiage to be able to have those conversations so that you don't do more damage to these students when they come at you with these questions. So the following week was the second day of our PD. We had, I told them, I said, on Thursday, we're going to have this conversation. And it's going to be non-threatening. I'm just laying the foundation. I'm not trying to go deep with it right now. I just want to get, and basically to the activity we did, the actual Google form was titled temperature check. I just want to check your temperature on where you at with this. So we went through the PowerPoint and we did it via Zoom. And T. Watson, who's in the comments, she was my co-facilitator. And basically, like, God works stuff out so smoothly sometimes. Because your plans, you be thinking, this plan is dope. But the plan he come up with would be so much doper. So the plan was I was going to start the Zoom and I was going to pass off the host responsibilities to her. And while I was going through and kind of laying the foundation for the PD, she was going to put everybody into breakout rooms. And then she was going to pass the host back to me so I can do the PowerPoint. Well, when she passed the host back to me, I didn't notice in Zoom. So when she passed it back to me, since she was no longer the host, all the breakout rooms disappeared because she gave up her responsibility as host. So we didn't know that, but it worked out perfect, though. Let me tell you why. So we go through the PowerPoint. So I told my staff, I said, your camera must be on and you're mute. I'm muting your mic and you won't have access to turn it back on because I need you to just sit in this. And we went through the PowerPoint. And I sent y'all the PowerPoint. I'm pretty sure y'all looked at it. It's deep. The PowerPoint is deep. It takes you there. But before we did that, the day before, I had somebody come to me and said, Dr. Smith, do you think we really should be having these conversations right now? Because teachers have a lot going on. And they're trying to get ready for the first day of school, and we learning Canvas and this and that and this and that. And I said, first of all, I hear you. And had I not had 15 teachers come to me before you that said we need to have this conversation, you probably would carry a little bit more weight. But to your point that a lot's going on, tell me at what point during the school year we not going to have a lot going on. So tomorrow, yes, we're going to have this conversation. But it still resonated with me because I'm like, man, maybe this is the wrong time. So I brought my BLT team in because they hadn't seen the PowerPoint yet. Like, I'm going to give credit. One of my colleagues gave me the PowerPoint. That's where I got it from. I didn't create it on my own. I took it from somebody else and I adapted it to kind of fit what I wanted to do. And I brought them into my conference room where I'm sitting right now. I said, hey, we about to go on an experience. And I want y'all to experience this because y'all going to facilitate this tomorrow with the rest of the staff. And we went through the PowerPoint. And my BLT, half is black, half is white. When it's over, it wasn't a person sitting around this conference table that didn't have tears in their eyes. And I told them what the other person told me about this might be the wrong timing. And they was like, nah, D. Smitty, this is the right time. Like, we need to force these conversations right now. And they was like, the only thing we don't want to happen is because if this conversation is not happening across the district, we don't want you sticking your neck out there while the rest of the people ain't doing it, and you get your head chopped off. And I told him, I said, you know what? This is the hill I'm willing to die on right here. Mm-hmm. If this was gonna cost me my job, I'm ready to give it up then. Because like we done said, I got 5 degrees. I can go get another job. I called Naomi, hey, Kip hiring? I'm coming to Jersey. Can I get a job? Like this platform, and I think, and maybe not for y'all, but for me, this platform right here, this show has given me a platform and a confidence that I didn't have back in April. Like, I done made too many connections over this summer where I'm like, this is the conversation we got to have. So when we did that, so then we go and do the PD for our staff. And mind you, while the PowerPoint is going, I'm scrolling through the screens to look at everybody. And I can see the emotion in everybody's face. So after the PowerPoint ends, and on the last slide, basically the last slide, I'm gonna pull it up. I want to read exactly what the last slide says, because somebody in the comments, they said, how are we making sure it's a safe space for these conversations to take place? And I think that this is really gets to that point of that safe space that we want to. But I laid it out like you did, boy. I told my staff, I said, if at any point when we go into these breakout rooms, you feel like you're being berated, or you're being targeted, or you're being blamed, you come talk to me and I'm gonna check whoever did it. I don't care, black, white, Hispanic. I'm gonna come to them, and because this ain't I'm not finger pointing. I'm not blaming my white staff for slavery. That's not what this is for. This is for, and this is what I'm gonna read the last slide on here. This is gonna tell you what I'm trying to do at my building. It says, to whom much is given, much is required. We have been given an incredible opportunity to educate and change the narrative at Grandview Middle School and in our communities. Will we accept that challenge and all the requirements that come along with it to ensure all of our students receive an ism and bias-free education? That's what we're doing this for, to make sure that your biases and your isms don't come into the curriculum you teaching. That's why we need to do this work. So after the thing was over with, the breakout rooms didn't work, and I seen the emotion on people's face. So on the spot, I had to change my plans. And I said, you know what? We're going to take a 15-minute break. And after that 15 minutes, I want 6th grade to go to this room. I want 7th grade to go to this room. I want 8th grade to go to this room. I want Encore to go here and go here. And you're going to have a facilitator, which was my BLT. They're going to facilitate a conversation. And the conversation was a Google form. And it wasn't even asking for individuals. It was saying, what is the consensus of the group? And the good thing I love about my staff is we got that relationship where we can have these conversations. Because my Encore team is tight. My 7th grade team is tight. They can have those real life conversations. If we would have did the whole staff, it probably wouldn't have been as deep. But I know those individual subsets have those relationships where they can have those conversations. And the question was, do you feel that there's a racial issue at GMS? How comfortable are you talking about race? How comfortable are you talking about social justice issues? How comfortable are you talking about it with your colleagues, with our students? And if we were to have these conversations at a more deeper level, would you prefer that it be whole staff, small staff, and if small staff, what groups or individual? So that as we go forward in this work, your voice matters in how it looks and what it looks like. So this is what I'm gonna do. I got an anonymous donor. I went out and bought 50 copies of this book for every one of my staff, because we're gonna do a book study as a whole staff. But I had an anonymous donor come to my school the other day because they heard about what I did. And they gave me 20 copies of this book. So if you are a school leader out there that wants to do this work in your building, all you have to do is email me at vashawn.smith@gmail.com, and I'm going to send you a copy of this book to seed into your school. I got 20 copies. If you are a school leader, vashawn.smith@gmail, you email me and I'm going to send you, to the point where the person that donated this, I told them, because I had to get their permission because they paid for them. I said, hey, here's what I plan on doing. They said that they will even pay for the postage for it to get to you. So the first 20 to email me, I got books for you to seed into your school, because this work needs to be done.
Man, listen. So y'all heard that. He's got books. You know what? Folks gotta tune in, man. We love giving the gifts. we love giving the gift.
Hold that thought for 1 minute. So we talked about this. Remember? Voices Volume 1. Your boy Doc Smith is he's one of the 13 authors. We mailed out our first copies of the books, right?
Yeah, we did.
We haven't got no more emails though, right?
Nope, we ain't got no
This is
more
what I'm
yet.
about to do. I don't know what you're gonna do. I got 15 copies. This is what I'm gonna do on Monday. I'm putting out the call to my school community. The first 15 black male boys in my school community that asked me for this book, they're getting it. I ain't waiting for the rest of y'all. I'm giving it to my boys, flat out.
Hey,
and I'm signing it.
Hey, I kept one at the school, so just in case, man. But look, we got a question in here, man. That's heavy. We're gonna get Ball back in here soon, man. And I apologize. You know what? I'm gonna just say. Viewer Castro. I don't want to butcher your first name, so I apologize. It said, how can a teacher or admin that is not black safely start that conversation with their teachers, students, or staff? Will there be the same amount of buy-in? So, Doc, man, I'm gonna throw it to you first, man. How can a teacher or an admin that's not black safely start this conversation? Because that's powerful.
So the first thing I'm gonna tell you, this was one of the last slides on the this was the second to last slide in my PowerPoint. So I'm gonna show you this because I can't show we don't have the screen share thing, but you can read that right there. So what I would tell I don't care if you black, white, purple, orange, green, before you start to have this conversation, you yourself first have to educate yourself. And you have to know what is your why. Why are you doing this work? Because your why is going to be challenged by everybody that's against this work. So you have to first get your understanding of why you are doing this work and why you feel this work is important. And then once you do, the next thing I would tell you is you need to work on that relationship piece. Because like I said, I can have this conversation with my staff because I built that relationship. You can, if I was a first year principal, I probably couldn't do this work. Not at the level I'm doing it right now. But I've worked to build that relationship with my staff and with my BLT. So now I can do this work at a deeper level and be more transparent. My counterpart, who I love to death, Dr. Harris, the principal at the other middle school, we collaborate so tough on our two schools. Matter of fact, my next blog post is going to be called, It Takes a Village, where two middle schools in the same district came together to be one for the betterment of all the students during the pandemic. That's how tough we collaborate. Our teachers' growth plans in two separate buildings, the standard that we picked for both buildings is the exact same standard. That's how bad we want to come together. She's a white woman. She's starting this work at her school, but this is her first year there. So I told her, I said, this might be something you could start in on second semester, because that first semester, you got to build those relationships. Mm-hmm. So as an admin or a teacher, you first have to get that relationship piece. And I don't care if it's this work that we're doing right here or if it's instructional strategies. If you ain't got a relationship, you ain't gonna get buy-in no matter what you're trying to do as a teacher or an administrator. So that would be my advice: is first educate yourself, develop your why, and then build relationships with the people that you work with.
Man, I think, and I just real quick, I think the first step is that to ask that question, right? Means that you've thought about this and you want to help. And one of the ways that we're gonna push this movement forward is we got to have allies on the other side, right? Because it's always been us, right? We've always had this fight, but now that we got allies on the other side, who's willing to stand side by side us, right? To have these conversations, I think that's power. But everything Dr. Smith said, educate yourself, find out your why, but also lean in, right? Lean on that person, because I heard I was listening to the radio this morning, and they were talking about on The View, right? And Jay, this is a moment where you just got to say, I'm going to yield to, those black, my black colleagues and my black friends on this, but I'm going to educate myself so I can speak articulate and intelligent about it as well. But Bob, I'm going to give you a chance. You said that's your teacher, right?
Real quick, Bob,
go ahead.
Let me do this real quick, because that's your teacher, boss. So I want to make sure I put this out there. I don't know if she's a part of the Patreon for the 8 Black Hands, but this is, I'm plugging 8 Black Hands because the 8 Black Hands, we do a book study. I was a part of the book, the first book study, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. We did the Education of Blacks in the South, and now they're doing the Man Not book study, which I've been a little too busy to be a part of. I apologize, cousin Chris. I got my love for you. But this is the next book we're doing the book study for in that Patreon. So viewer Castro, as Dave called you, Miss Castro, if you go to the 8 Black Hands Facebook page, get on their Patreon. It's a very low fee to be a part of it, but we're gonna do a book study on this book coming up shortly, and I hope Unc already got that approved by the other 3 Black Hands or the other 6 Black Hands. I just threw it out there, and it's on wax, so we got to make it happen now.
There you go. So, Ball, you got a teacher who, and she made it very clear that she's not a white girl, but somebody who's not black. How do you support that teacher who says, Mr. Ball, Principal Ball, I want to stand with you. I want to start these conversations. How can you support her and making sure that she can have that voice and get folks to buy in?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is to lean into your resources. Like, I'm here for my staff, and, we started conversations second semester last year, which was my first year, just kind of digging into addressing some of the racial tension, the racial anxiety, the racist actions that we've seen in our district. And I think that, there's a lot of people that are uncomfortable, but guess what? Nobody's in this thing alone.
Mm-hmm.
So you find someone. I mean, Alessandra's good. Alessandra, that's how you pronounce it.
Alessandra, I apologize. Yeah. Thank you.
But that's what it is. You find someone that you can partner with and that you can bring into that conversation. It might be difficult initially to, if it's a colleague, for example, that, you feel like, hey, we need to have this conversation. You don't necessarily have to do it on your own, but there are opportunities, just like in the classroom, when something comes up and you can stop a lesson and say, this is a teachable moment. I need to take action. And I think that's one thing that we can't be afraid to embrace those teachable moments, because something's going to come up where someone's going to say something and it's going to rub you the wrong way. And you have to be the person that's brave enough to not let it go, this something that's a microaggression. Oh, they say that kind of stuff jokingly. You can't let those things go, because I know they happen. They don't just happen at my school site. They happen in the community. They happen in the grocery store. They happen at every place. Someone will say something that is wrong. They probably don't know that it's wrong, and they need to be called out it. And sometimes you got to sacrifice that moment of discomfort, or maybe even that relationship for a time. If they're your real friend, they're not going to shy out. I mean, they might shy away a little bit, but they're going to come back. They'll come back to you. But the fact of the matter is that you have to find it inside of yourself that, like, this is something that that needs to be addressed. I don't have to do it alone. I need to find those people that can come alongside me and support me through it. And that's what it is. So whether it's a conversation in the classroom, you don't necessarily feel comfortable with leading a discussion about Black Lives Matter, but guess what? You got a Black principal. Bring him in. We can plan it together and we can execute it together. So that you're not doing this thing by yourself.
Man, love it. So we're at the hour point, and so we're gonna get the final thoughts. But say it again, Ball. I want to get it right.
Alessandra.
She asked the question. I'm gonna not dismiss it. We're gonna put it on the back burner. But she asked, how does white teachers talk about race with students? I think she just gave us the topic.
We ain't gonna put it on the back burner. I'm gonna address it in my final thoughts.
There we go. But I also think that's the topic. So
we're
gonna go to final thoughts. Doc, I'm gonna start with you so you can address that. Ball, I'm gonna go with you, and then I'm gonna close this out with final thoughts. So Doc, final thoughts.
First part of my final thought is, Ball, you said that's one of your teachers, bro. I don't know if she's on your leadership team or whatever, but you got a diamond right there, bro. Like she wants to do the work. That's the people you want on your team that's wanting to do the work. So she asked the question, I told you my first thing is you have to educate yourself. So I told you the book study that my BLT did first. Next, this is our next book we're about to kick into, Race Talks and the Conspiracy of Silence. Okay? Basically, understanding and facilitating difficult dialogue on race. Get this book. It's going to give you tips on that. That's one of the books. Also, we're doing this book right here, Courageous Conversations About Race, and I got them the Facilitator's Guide. So educate yourself, get the resource. I'm a big believer. You can ask my staff. T. Watson was in the comments. I don't ask my staff to do nothing if I don't first show them how to do it. That's my final thoughts.
Love it. Ball, what you got for us, man?
Well, I just want to follow up our conversation. 9/11 was an impactful day in 2001, and we had the opportunity to share. It shaped who we are, and it shaped, where we've come and where we've gone as leaders. But I just want to shout out to all of those that were impacted directly, those that have family members that they lost, those first responders that spent time down there. But I think one of the things that makes me realize, and just that whole experience, like, we have to be in this fight of life to we have to get away from trying to be divisive. And some people might say, oh, you're talking about race and you're talking about all these types of things. Yeah, we got to peel back that onion a little bit in diagnose the problem and address the problem before we move forward. And I think we gotta do that together, and we have to move forward together. So I think that's my biggest thing, is just that we got to be good to each other. We have to rely on each other. We have to learn from each other and move this thing forward. Realest movement together, moving forward.
Absolutely. I ended with this. This show has been amazing. I'd love to hear from y'all. Catch us in 2 weeks, September 25th, for episode 6. But this Sunday, A Black Hand Podcast, I'm on a page, and I'm going to read the tweet. It says, "We wish we had the luxury of being nice Black parents. This Sunday, the Hands Critique, Nice White Parents Podcast. You asked for it, and as Unc said, be careful what you ask for, because there's some heat coming on Sunday." It's been the AOS Podcast, episode 5, and we out, everybody. See y'all the 25th.
Go Mob.
Peace.
Rue.